And joining us now with more on the latest developments in the Gaza war, the hostage negotiations, and more is Dr. Harel Chorev, senior researcher at the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So the IDF is operating very slowly and carefully in Gaza at the moment. Certainly not the, all hell will break loose that U.S. President Trump said, would be unleashed. What are Israel's objectives now? Is it simply biding time until a potential hostage deal?
Well, I think in the middle of it, the objective is a better hostages deal. Surely, otherwise we would see several divisions storming the Gaza Strip if that was the goal. But that's not the goal. The goal is really to increase the pressure on Hamas. We already saw that it is helpful in terms that Hamas is willing to release 5 hostages, which is not enough for Israel. But it's far better than 1 hostage, as they were willing to release about a month ago with the release of Idan Alexander, which did not materialize. So now we're talking about 5. Israel demands more. We'll see where it goes.
Israel is making a major push to try and release more hostages, as many hostages as it can get. Reports indicate it's asking to release half of the hostages still being held in Gaza. Netanyahu says the military pressure campaign is working on Hamas. We're seeing protests against Hamas in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip. How likely is it that this pressure is working and that we will see some kind of a deal in the very near future?
Well, military pressure always helps, I must say. It helped, including in the first or the second, both in the first and the second hostage deal. It was one of the main reasons why we reached this deal. However, Hamas is in what we can call its money time. And Hamas is striving for strategic goals at the moment, which means to ensure its remaining on ground, its perseverance. And I think in that sense, Israel gonna meet a very tough competitor on the other end. However, and any hostage that we are succeeding in releasing is, a world. And I think this is exactly what Israel is striving at the moment, to make this list of hostages as short as possible. And if we need to go into a war because Hamas is not willing to take the offer to go to exile and to demilitarize, I guess this is exactly where we are going to find ourselves.
Now, Israel largely withdrew its troops from Rafah during the ceasefire agreement, after major operations to clear out Hamas terror infrastructure in the south of Gaza. What's happening there now, and what is the estimate, in terms of Hamas's capabilities in Rafah?
Well, first of all, we're talking about 20% more or less of the Gaza Strip, so it's a major key area, both in terms of population and of course the territory. I think the IDF should expect all sorts of things that Hamas prepared for. What we should say an expected invasion of Israel, at least in high risk. So charges and booby traps of all sorts, and this is indeed a great issue. However, on the good side, I can say that part of the reasons that we lost a lot of soldiers, unfortunately, during I would say the late phases of the war, was because we were missing a lot of ammunition. Okay, as simple as that. And houses that could be cleared with one tank shell had to be cleared up with a platoon. And that's of course put a lot of our soldiers in risks. And in the later phases of the war, we lost something like 80% out of our soldiers because of those booby traps. Now, with a better ammunition, hopefully we will be able at least to decrease this number.
Better ammunition, I think it's important to note, thanks to the Trump administration lifting the ban that the Biden administration placed on these munitions.
Definitely. Of course. I mean, this is the whole thing. I mean, the Biden administration, we can say a lot of good words about Biden and his administration and the fact that they supplied us and everything, but they also did a lot of major mistakes that affected the hostages as well.
And you know, speaking of the Trump administration, in recent days, even weeks, we're seeing a very dramatic increase in the rhetoric coming from the Trump administration against the Islamic Republic of Iran and, of course, vice versa. Do you think this is a pressure tactic, or could this indicate that a U.S. strike might be imminent?
Well, I think both. It is a pressure tactic, but I definitely think that they are willing to do this, that they are definitely willing to take measures against the Islamic Republic, definitely. However, it's not good in the Middle East, but actually anywhere. It's not good to threaten and then not to do what you threaten to do, okay? Because you won't be taken seriously after a while. And I'm suspecting the Iranian took some of Trump's deadlines and threats not seriously because the American didn't do anything. However, knowing the Trump administration, knowing the way he took the decision of killing, for example, Qasem Soleimani, I think that the Iranians shouldn't be happy or feel too comfort because Trump will, you know, he can just flip up in one day and decide this is the day and we are attacking. Mm-hmm. So I do believe the Trump administration, when they are threatening to act against the Iranians.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Dr. Harel Chorev, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you very much.